further.
Thank you, April. Thank you to everybody for being here. And we're going to have fun tonight. This is my absolute favorite topic in the whole world. And it's for many reasons, but I am a couples financial coach. So this is really what I help couples do, is have healthier dialogues about money, and so that they can be on the same team and figure out how to best achieve everyone's goals and do that together. And so I go by the Couples Financial Coach. My website is couplesfinancialcoach.com. I'll mention that again at the end, but I will get right into our presentation. And just a moment, I'm going to share my screen and start the slideshow. Okay, and just let me know in the chat, just confirm that you can see my screen. Give me a yes. Perfect. Okay, thank you. So we'll get right on into it. So, how to talk to your partner about money. So, what are the objectives today? Money is one of the most challenging issues for a lot of couples. The thing is that it doesn't necessarily have to be. If you can get healthy dialogue going and get over that hurdle, it's actually something that can bring you a lot closer together. But first, you want to understand why these conversations are stressful. And we're going to go through all of that and hopefully deepen your understanding. And I'm going to also share some practical strategies to have productive, connected conversations about money going forward. But explicitly, the objectives are for everyone to learn how to have money conversations and to have better conversations. And we'll talk about why money isn't about money. If that's counterintuitive, don't worry. Essential communication skills for talking about money, including how to set up a successful conversation. And then we'll also share some specific strategies, review, and takeaways. Now, if you have any comments or questions, everything you can put into the chat box. I don't mind you asking me questions as we go, and I will try to answer it unless I think it's something that will be addressed later. And hopefully we'll have a few moments at the end to answer any questions that you might have. Okay. Money conversations for everyone. No matter where we're at in our journey as a couple and financially, could all use a little bit of help talking about money. Financial issues are repeatedly surveyed as the #1 stressor for couples, as a top reason that couples break up or divorce. Money represents many things. Safety net in case of an emergency, financial emergency or job loss. It's protection from certain bad outcomes. Freedom to choose how to spend your time and energy. Health and wellness are very much linked to household income, socioeconomic status, and so much more, right? It's a lot easier to list out the areas of life that money doesn't touch versus the ones that it does, I would think. And if you and your partner can talk about money in a healthy way, then that's going to be a crucial part of you having a happy, healthy, constructive relationship. So, first question of the day: what are you hoping to get out of today's discussion about money? It might be something that you need help with or something you'd like to focus on. What would you like to get out of today's discussion? And I'll hang on a moment while people share in the chat box. Step right up. Don't be shy. Okay, I'm gonna flip to the next slide. But I welcome you to continue sharing, and even if you don't want to share, think about it for yourself, right? That way you can help kind of frame how you're taking in the conversation tonight. So that money isn't about money point. On its face, money is very simple and logical, right? have more coming in than going out is the basic rule. But the truth is, it's really not that simple. And money is typically dictated heavily by our history with money. So our parents are perhaps the biggest influence in the environment we grew up in. And they've sculpted and resculpted our likes and dislikes about money, the points of view we have, the way we think about financial institutions. Do we trust them? What do we think about rich people? What do we think about poor people? Uh, this is all going to have a big influence, right? I mean, if one of your parents had a gambling problem or was controlling with money, or maybe there was a wealthy uncle and everyone felt jealous, right? And these personal meanings guide how we deal with money in our relationship. And the truth is that logic ultimately has very little to do with it, excuse me. But yet, money does define us in so many ways: how we dress, what we eat, where we live, how we socialize, things that we can or cannot do, especially including careers, vacations, etc. Right? So it is a significant issue, and yet logic has maybe not a whole lot to do with it, right? Right? Again, money represents things, it has meanings to us. So if your partner complains about the expensive organic groceries you bought, or the silk tie that costs more than an airplane ticket, and you leads to an argument, know that it's not just about the food or the tie. For example, to be able to buy organic food represents a sense of stability and success for many people. And this is very important, right? So there's a lot that goes on there. Some more about this. And I want to give you a question to think about here. That push and pull in the picture, who feels familiar? Who looks at that picture and is kind of like, yep, I can relate to those wooden figurines pulling. Let me know, an I can in the chat if you can relate. And not only is money loaded with meaning, but it also has a lot to do with power. Who makes more money? Who has more money saved? Um, this can be powerful and create a lot of power imbalances. And that can lead to people being on the aggression side or the defensive side, can make discussions heated and hurtful, even when they maybe don't have to be. The thing is that these conversations about money that become arguments, they're about our dreams, they're about our fears, our anxieties, our inadequacies, how we create our sense of self, whether it's done consciously or not. Um, we have a comment: to learn how to improve my ability to communicate effectively with sensitive topics such as finances. And yes, I can relate. Thank you for sharing. And that's certainly what we hope to do in the chat. How do you and your partner view money differently? And in what ways do you view it similarly? If you're like most of my clients, you can much more quickly, the ways you think you view it differently, right? In fact, most of my clients, when they come to me, say, we just look at money completely differently. The question is, well, is that a bad thing? It can be if you haven't cultivated what I would call financial intimacy, the ability to have open, honest, vulnerable conversations about money. Then yeah, they can bump up against each other, right? One person is much more likely to want to keep close tabs. If we could have the participants mute, would be much appreciated. Thank you. So let me get back to where I was. Well, hopefully it comes back to me. So again, so they say, oh, we view money differently. And that's the funny thing, is that this is actually good news. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong, there might be differences that are too intense to work through and transcend. But for the most part, the thing that makes you different is also what makes you a great pair, right? Usually, if you're an extrovert, your partner might be an introvert. If you are a little more like homebody and don't get out of your comfort zone, you often have a partner who's a bit more adventurous, right? And it's the same with money. One person keeps really tight both have something to learn from each other, right? You can imagine the person who likes to control it tightly, they could learn to relax and enjoy a little bit more. And the person who's too fluid with it, they could stand to have some structure and be more intentional and thoughtful about things. Um, so keep thinking about that question. How do you and your partner view money the same or differently? Okay, so does your relationship need a financial tune up? Here's some questions you might ask and be honest, right? Do you ever lie to your partner about what you spend or perhaps not tell them, right? Especially if it's something that they would want to know. Even more so if you have some sort of agreement to discuss, an expense of that amount or that type. Do you dread talking to your partner about money? Do you keep most of your money separate because you don't trust your partner? And this is a really important point that goes to the next one too. Do you wish you kept your money separate because you doubt your partner's judgment about money? Separate accounts, joint accounts, a mix. I believe that any option can work if it comes from a place of openness and you realize we trust each other, and also let's say this separate finances is what's best for us to achieve our goals. If you're doing it because you don't trust your partner or you're afraid to be judged or to make mistakes, that is a kind of neon flashing light, something to look out for. Another question might be, do you wish you had help managing your family's finances? Or on the other end of that, do you wish you knew about your family's finances? I'm going to ask you one other question that's not on there. Okay. If you're the person who does more around the financial management, if something happened to you and you were unable to manage things, would your partner be okay? And if your partner is the one who typically manages things, if something happened to them, would you be okay? Would you? And when I say okay, I mean able to handle things, pay the bills, take care of stuff, keep the lights on, etc. Let me know in the chat if you are either confident or not confident that both parties would be okay, no matter what happened. So, how do we have good conversations? We got a yes, I'm confident I can manage. And so you're confident you can manage. What about your partner? Could they manage as well? Right? Are we confident that both people can manage? Yes, if I knew all the passwords. So if you don't know all the passwords, are you keeping track or keeping an eye on those accounts? Right? And if not, how could you maybe do so? This is the foundation of it all. You do want to know where you're at. Okay, so here's some important communication skills to have good financial communication patterns or shape up some old ones that are not working. A calm demeanor can be very helpful, right? And I think we all know this. And don't mistake this for saying you shouldn't have emotions. Money is emotional and it's tied to our values and our hopes and our anxieties. And so it makes sense to have emotions, but you can have emotions and still be grounded. Okay. And patience. Things aren't going to go from a mess to perfect overnight, right? Or from wherever you're at to perfect overnight. And you want to really honor the growth for you, for your partner, for the relationship in terms of managing money. A sense of humor can be really big. To laugh because mistakes are going to get made. And that's okay, right? If you can laugh about that and, kind of appreciate each other's quirks, That's going to get you a long way. Kindness and grace, I'll add to that, are huge because, as I said, mistakes will be made, things will go wrong. And so being kind to each other, giving each other some space and grace can really make all the difference. And lastly, on this slide, I mean, there's more we could say, but to take a break. If things get too heated or overwhelming, it's okay to take a break. Just make sure you talk about this beforehand, how you'd like to handle it. Okay, can we take 5? Can we take 15? Can we pause till tomorrow? Whatever it is, just, make sure you set expectations about how you're going to continue on. But that can be a really useful tool so that you can get back to the calm demeanor. Now, which of these do you need to improve? Think about it. Tell me in the chat. Calm demeanor, taking a break when you get too heated, having a sense of humor about life and money's imperfections, having patience with your partner or your financial growth, and kindness and grace towards yourself, or kindness and grace towards your partner, or both. Patience, yes. And what is it that tests your patience? Like, what happens that you're like, ooh, right? That it just dissipates in the thin air. Keep sharing in the box, by the way. Over explaining. That's if you over explain or your partner over explains. Uh-huh. Yeah, this can be a common dynamic, right? We might feel like our partner is over explaining to us, like do you think I'm stupid, or I don't know what you're saying, right? Or they feel like they're patronizing. And that's a common dynamic. The question is really, how much is that coming from them? How much is, you've got a tendency to hear what your partner says in certain moments, at least, as that you hear them saying, let me rephrase that. What they say, you interpret it as you don't get it, or you're dumb, or you don't understand, even if they maybe aren't saying that. And even if they are, where's that coming from for them, right? Are they feeling really anxious, and that gets them where they're over explaining because, or have you not been able to hold up your side of the financial bargain in the past, and so they feel like they have to really explain it, and maybe that will help ensure and give them the level of control they want, right? But if it doesn't feel good for you, that could be something to discuss as well. Common sense stuff, honestly, but it can be really helpful to hear it out loud. Pick a specific time. This allows you to get in the mood and get things set up, and emotionally be present. Do your best to make sure you're in a good frame of mind, not too tired or irritable. Listen, if you've got kids, I get it's never going to be perfect, but do your best, right? Turn the phones off. That is a no brainer. Put away all the technology, really, especially if you're just getting started with these dialogues. There will come a time where you'll want to be looking at, accounts or spreadsheets, and that's great. But for in the beginning, just be present, just be talking to each other. Um, I recommend, setting an agenda to help you stay on track is great. I recommend, if money's a tough topic for you and your partner, just pick one topic, one agenda item to discuss. You complete that discussion, meeting adjourned. Okay, and gather any documents you might need beforehand. And if you have them on the computer, but you don't want to have the computer on, you can always print them, right? And even like we said before, recommend discussing ahead of time, hey, if things get too heated, let's take a break. And, again, setting the kind of terms and parameters of that. So let's talk about some phrases that are helpful And this is more kind of a way of approaching it. Okay. Phrases beginning with you, the word you, are often not the ideal way to go. Really, what you want to do is I'm worried about how much money is being spent each month. I think it's more than the money coming in. Could we talk about that? Right. Or I want to make sure we're on the same page about how much we can spend every month. Or can we make a time to talk about money? I'm a little worried right now. If you're prone to the grandiose verbosity like I am, you can say, I love you so much. I want us to have the best possible life. And money is a big part of that. And right now I'm feeling kind of anxious. And it would be really helpful for me and I think for us if we sat down to look things over, right? Frame it in terms of how it would help you, but also how it would help both of you and the future you want to create with them. Because if you're going to have that like kick butt future, money's going to be part of it in almost all cases. Now, you might even want to think about some of these things ahead of time, right? If you're going to have a particular discussion topic and maybe you've got some complaints or frustrations in that area, you can even write them down and then think about how to frame them. And this is not about, oh, you can't say your truth, right? This is about how to communicate your truth in a way that it's more likely to be received and understood instead of triggering defensiveness, and that they will want to hear and help you. If you say, I'm feeling anxious about this, usually your partner wants to help you. They don't want you to feel anxious, right? If you say you're spending too much, well, now you put them on the defensive. Think about the difference there. How might you be able to rephrase your complaints about the way your partner handles money or talks about money or their relationship with money? And it's also nice to ourselves. I mean, when we say, call it energy juju, just the negativity is not really good for our brains and bodies in a lot of ways. This is a big point. You and your partner believe in an equal partnership, right? Okay, let's take that as a given. Great. But money management does not have to be totally equitable. Why do I say this? Well, does cooking have to be totally equitable? Does cleaning have to be totally equitable? Does childcare have to be totally equitable? Does yard work have to be totally equitable? Everything have to be 50-50 exactly? No, a lot of us, we play to our strengths or things we enjoy doing, right? And that's okay. In fact, I encourage it. The thing is, when you talk about big picture strategy, okay, regardless of who's actually executing it day to day, moment to moment, month to month, even, you got to come together to form the joint strategy. It's got to be a shared vision for financial prosperity. You got that? Shared vision. And it's okay if some of the goals within that vision are just for you, or at least more for you, or just for your partner, or more for your partner. That is totally okay. And then you'll probably have some joint goals too. Great. Let's figure out a vision and plan that helps each of us and both of us get the most out of the money we work our tails off to earn. In general, and figure out who's going to take on what, right? The key is, bottom line, you both got to understand where's your money going, who's handling each task, right? How you're prioritizing things. Here's 4 key topics, especially if you're in a newer relationship and trying to see if you're financially compatible. Debt, if you have it, student loan, credit card debt, mortgage, etc., car, and how you plan to pay it off. What's your approach? Uh, how much you have in savings or any other assets, what your spending habits are, and even your financial style, how you like to think about and handle money, right? Are you going to keep your debts individual, or are you going to work on them together? Same with your assets. Are they going to be kept individual or together? Right? Can you find ways to make your styles mesh? Some people like to pay bills right when they arrive. Some people like to wait till the deadline. There, as you can imagine, there might be all different kinds of ways to coordinate and organize this. Now, some of these questions, the answers may feel like deal breakers for you. And in a perfect world, you would have a clear sense of what's negotiable and non-negotiable, even coming into this conversation or coming into a relationship. But remember, there's no one right way to do it. Okay, so keep your mind open. What feels like a deal breaker, it might be a deal breaker, but it might also just be, I've got some money anxieties or some money fears or some points of view on money that I maybe haven't worked through or processed or dealt with or learned about. So try and distinguish those to the extent you can. It may be easy for you, it may not, and you may evolve that over time. But have those conversations, right? If something is really stressful for you, even if you don't want to immediately call it non-negotiable or a deal breaker, if you're not sure, but like, hey, I've been noticing this thing is stressful for me. I don't know how much is just from my own stuff, or is how much is that this is really a challenge for our financial lives, but can we maybe talk about it? And look for that middle ground. It doesn't have to be literally halfway between the two of you, but how can we create something that honors each person's values, priorities, perspectives, point of view? This conversation does not have to be something that tears you apart. In fact, it can actually bring you together, because if you talk about this honestly, openly, in a compassionate, sensitive, conscientious way, and you solve problems as a team, important problems, that's actually something that brings you together. That's beautiful, right? And you're planning for your future together. Now, I'm going to ask you another question. Would love for thoughts in the chat box, especially for those of you where talking about money has been a challenge historically. If you two could get on the same page, talk about these things, work together to come up with a plan and a vision, what kind of difference would that make in the quality of your life and the quality of your relationship? I'll give you a minute. You guys are shy tonight, huh? All right. Well, keep thinking about it. And even if you're not putting in the chat, have it in your brains. We're a little bit more than halfway through the slides, by the way. Dreams, hopes and dreams. Money can play a really big part in these, right? Thinking about your home, dream vacation. When was the last time you and your partner had a conversation about each of your dreams? We can get caught up in the day to day and we forget to really talk about what moves us. And sometimes, even if money is tight, even if you're in a tough spot, just connecting to those dreams can shift the conversation in a big way, from digging out of a hole, and that's kind of like stressful, right? Versus reaching towards something awesome, something wonderful, something beautiful. Uh, and if you keep having these healthy discussions, I mean, this is a great one, the dreams one, because there shouldn't be too much to argue about, right? You're just sharing your dreams. And if you have a conversation like this, it's not about, oh, that's not realistic, or oh, that's silly. It's really just that creates space for an argument, or if you're trying to cut something, right? Or if you're talking about a way your partner spends money that you don't like. It's not that you shouldn't have these conversations, but in order to get going, if you can have conversations that don't actually relate to your actions as an individual, right, or specific choices you're making, that's going to help you out. It'll do you a solid. As much as we say money is not about money, there are important aspects and skills and concepts to understand. Okay. Now, money can be overwhelming for a lot of us. And the truth is, there's a glut of information out there, and some of it's great and a lot of it's not so great. Uh, but if you want to feel more empowered, education is a really key way to do this. And so, this is another question to think about. And again, welcome to put your answers in the chat. What kind of financial education would you like to have? What would benefit you? Here's some ideas. Talk to someone in HR at the company. You can ask about retirement saving options like 401ks or IRAs. You can ask them about things related to health insurance, if they offer a life insurance plan, or any benefits like that. Uh, you might want to look into college savings plans. These are often called 529 plans. Many states have their own version. If this is relevant for you, or for your kids or grandkids, perhaps you might to include your partner. The things you learn can make a difference, but also just learning together can be really nice. So include them in whatever way you can. Maybe they learn with you actively, or maybe you report back to them during, your regular sit downs that you have, a money date, that you have once a week or twice a month or once a month, whatever the case may be. Here's some strategies at the intersection of relationships, emotions, and money. And again, these are pretty common sense, but is so heavy sometimes, so loaded, that we get off our game, right? Number one, be honest. Tell the truth. Don't keep the money secrets. If you've been keeping them, open up. Right? If you want things to get better, you got to tell the truth. You got to put everything out on the table and listen to your partner's thoughts, opinions, and you don't have to attack them back. Of course, you can ask that, and they can ask of you that you are being as conscientious and kind as you can in sharing those concerns. But we have to talk about those things, right? And try to avoid blaming. Mistakes happen. Bad habits often come from a place that, if you really understood it, you wouldn't. It's you and me versus the issue, you and me versus the problem, you and me versus the challenge, right? Think about that. If you treat each other without respect, disrespectfully, it's going to lead to the breaking down of intimacy, push you further apart, even resentment, frustration, anger. And that's really rough for a relationship. Remember, no one's perfect. A little grace, a little forgiveness, can go a long way. Bottom line, the goal is to work together and move towards a positive outcome. A few more strategies. Again, pretty common sense. Be respectful. It's just as important as honesty. You know, you can tell the truth without being unnecessarily harsh, right? You can communicate what you feel needs to be said in a way that is thoughtful and cares for the other person. Doesn't mean they're not going to get their feelings hurt at all, but you can do it in a thoughtful, mindful way, and that makes a big difference, right? Having that respect, not name calling, not putting people in a box. Of course, we've talked about the team mentality throughout, and be consistent. Have conversations not just once. Schedule regular time together to check in on your progress, look over any bills or expenses that you need to review, and even setting your goals. If you're not having these goals, and then once a year, even at your overall strategy. The important point is to plan these things out, really be committed to them, set aside. And if you struggle to keep those appointments with each other, that money date, then find some additional support or structure to help you really keep that. Who here has difficulty, who has a hard time not judging the things their partner wants, right? So who gets kind of judgmental when their partner buys stuff or says what they want to buy? Give me a me in the chat if you can relate. All right, and I'm going to do this. Me, because it's me. Right? This is but the truth is two things. Number one, a lot of that comes out of my own anxiety related to money, and so like that immediate response. But secondly, whatever your partner wants, listen to them, pay attention. Why? First of all, this way they feel like you care and you're not dismissing them. Second of all, you can understand them better. Third of all, you might get a nice gift idea. Um, and fourth of all, it's just going to make them feel better about what they want and what they need. If you consider their needs silly, or excuse me, their wants silly, that's typically just going to be a dead end, right? It's like running into a wall. You'd like them to hear out and honor the things that you want, and you should do the same back for them, of course, right? That kind of golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Listen, right? It won't kill you, I promise. No one enjoys being micromanaged, right? So try not to, okay? Probably make your partner feel disrespected. And you end up feeling not just like a taskmaster, but sometimes even worse, like a parent. You end up in this parent child dynamic. Oof. Who here resonates with that? The parent child dynamic, right? One, you either feel like the child or the parent, usually one or the other, but one of you is the child, one of you is the parent, and it's like you're, you know, checking on each other and keeping inventory and why did you do this? Why did you do that? Right? This is not an intimacy building dynamic. This is one that kind of makes it feel more like roommates than romantic partners. Um, so yeah, avoid going line by Give yourself the opportunity to celebrate the good things that happen. If you want or need support, seek it. Look out for it. Go find it. There's no shame in this. Money is really one of the most challenging topics for couples for a reason. Okay. Uh, there are also books and YouTube videos out there. I have a podcast myself called the Couples Financial Coach Podcast. It's on all the major platforms. I also have a YouTube channel with some videos, but there are more podcast episodes than YouTube videos. Someone like a financial planner or accountant can make a huge difference, right? Almost like a marriage counselor, but for your finances. And I see this a lot with my clients. They're like feeling stressed about their spending, and then they come to me and it's like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to spend more now because we're already spending a lot. And I get that, right? Because now you're actually sitting down having a conversation. You're like, ooh, we do spend a lot, and ooh, this is going to cost more. And something to consider is, okay, but in the long run, is this worth the investment, right? Especially if you're struggling to come together as a team. You know whether it feels like you're leaving opportunities on the table, right? Do you is this worth the investment? In some cases, the person might be able to help you right away earn more or cut spending. But also, what about in the long run, right? Especially if there's conflict, because this is one of the most challenging issues for couples. How can you get away from that place of conflict into a place of teamwork, partnership, peace of mind, sense of stability? Okay, so last substantive slide here, and then I'll hang out for questions. And bring your doozies, okay? Like I said, this is what I do all day, every day, helping couples. So I love the questions, even if you think they're hard. And if you don't want to share publicly, you can always send me a message privately, and I will leave out your name. Um, I don't plan to say anybody's name anyway, but of course, if you put it in the chat with everyone, people will see your name. But while you're thinking of questions you'd like to ask, let's go through some reviews and takeaways. Be mindful, right? Be careful about how you speak to each other about money, especially if it's been a tense issue in the past. When you're going to have these conversations, it's best to set aside a specific time and place. Seek professional help if you need it or want it. Make sure each of you has all the passwords and logins to all how you grow up with money, also how money has been in past relationships for you, right? Especially if you've had a past partner you were married to or lived with or had joint expenses in some way, even taking trips together. Those experiences can color how we look at money in this relationship. Sometimes good ways, sometimes maybe not as productive ways. Bottom line, remember to be a team, right? Talk about those dreams. I encourage people to talk about their hopes and dreams. Talk about your fears or worries too, right? And really make a point not to judge each other's wants or desires. In a lot of ways, we maybe can't even control our wants or desires. There are wants and desires. That doesn't mean that we should go and spend money to get something that we want just because we want it, right? but it also means that the things you want or desire are, it's valid, right? It's just like your feelings, even if they don't make sense to someone else, they're still valid. They're yours. They're real. They're there, right? So be compassionate, listen, be empathetic, right? Set aside some healthy time to talk about it and get the support you need, and make sure you have access to all the information that you need. And where you don't, fill in the gaps, get some education. I really appreciate everybody being here, and I'll hang out for the next bit here for comments, questions, feedback, anything like that.